Here's what you need to know before you dive into B1. Write an expression for the operation described below, 6 times t. Well, when multiplying a number by a variable, you don't actually need any symbols, so you can just answer 6t. Next, we have to raise q to the 5th power. And that's pretty straightforward. We start with q and we add an exponent to the 5th power. Next, we have t increased by s. Well, the word increase implies addition, so we can just write t plus s. Next, we have to multiply c by 5, and since you don't need to use a symbol when multiplying a variable with a number, you could simply write c5. But note that conventionally, the number, aka coefficient, usually comes before the variable, so it's better practice to answer 5c. Next, we have to subtract y from 7, then multiply 4 by the result. Well, since y is being subtracted from the 7, we should start with 7 minus y. Next, if we have to multiply the result by 4, it can be tempting to just put times 4 at the end. But according to the order of operations, aka PEMDAS, you would actually have to multiply y by 4 first. So to make sure that we subtract first, we have to add parentheses around the 7 minus y. And instead of putting a dot, you can just move the 4 in front of the parentheses. Next, how can you support this channel to continue making videos? Well, it's pretty easy. You just need to like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Next, we have to raise d to the 2nd power, then add c to the result. And this is pretty straightforward. We start with d, we raise it to the 2nd power, and then we add c. Next, we have to subtract r from 4, then add q to the result. So we can start with 4, then subtract r from it, then add q. Next, we have to raise d to the 3rd power, then divide the result by c. So we can start with d, then raise it to the 3rd power, then use a fraction bar to divide it by c. Next, we have v minus the difference of t and u. We can start off with exactly what it says, v minus, and for the difference of t and u, the word difference implies subtraction, so we have t minus u, but we have to make sure that that's done separately, so we need to use parentheses. So if you go back and read it, it looks like v minus the difference between t and u. Next, we have 6 less than a. Now notice that this doesn't say 6 minus a. This says 6 less than a. So we're starting with a and we're taking away 6. Next, subtract 5 from n, then add 8 to the result. Since we're subtracting 5 from n, we start with n minus 5 and then add 8. Next, divide s by 9, then subtract t from the result. Well, first we use a fraction bar to divide s by 9. Then separately, we subtract t from the whole thing. Next, we have to double z, then add y to the result. Well, double just means times 2, so we could start with 2z and then add y to that. Next, we have to raise the product of u and v to the 8th power. The word product implies multiply, and to show multiplying two variables, we could just put them next to each other. So we start with uv, and since we have to raise the answer of this multiplication to the 8th power, we need to use parentheses. Otherwise, just one of the variables would be raised to the 8th power. Next, we need to add 7 and m, divide n by the result, then raise what we have to the 6th power. So we could start off by adding 7 plus m, and since we need to divide n by the result, we put the whole thing over n. Lastly, we need to raise to the 6th power. Since we need to raise everything, we need to put parentheses and raise the whole thing to the 6th power. Well, that's all I've got for this lesson. If you want to see more content just like this, check out the Algebra 1 IXL playlist right here. This is Mr. Leo with Epic Math. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.